Hi, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for watching and for subscribing. And if you're just visiting, please consider subscribing. So today I'm going to share with you next installment of the Fragrance Twins series. This is part 3. Now, you guys seem to really enjoy this series. Many of you left me comments under part 2 that you wanted to see part 3. And, to be honest, I really enjoy doing this series as well. So I am really excited to bring you part 3. And I have to admit that this part has a lot of really interesting and maybe sometimes even unusual comparisons. I think there are 6 new comparisons in total. And also at the end, I'm going to give you an update on a comparison that I did in part 2. So I think we have a lot of fragrances to go through. So let's not waste any time and let's start with our first comparison. Now here, we're going to look at 3 fragrances. There is Panettone from Milano Fragranze, Jour de Peau from Serge Lutens, and I'm also adding Al Contrario from Tiziana Terenzi as well. Now, Al Contrario, as you can see, I don't have right now, but I did have this fragrance and I decluttered it a while ago. Why? I will explain a little bit later. Now, why am I comparing all of these fragrances? Well, the reason is because all of them have kind of this bready bakery type of vibe. But there are some differences. There are some noticeable difference in these. So let's start with Panettone from Milano Fragranze. Now, I've spoken about this fragrance a number of times recently, so I'm not going to go too much in depth on this one because you've heard about it. Basically, Panettone is this Italian bread that's kind of sweet and I think a little bit dry, and it has some raisins in it. And that's exactly what it smells like. I mean, I've never actually, to be honest, tried Panettone, but I had something similar in my childhood, this kind of white, fluffy type of bread. It's sweet and it has some, raisins or dried fruits in it. The note that's quite prominent here is the note of bitter orange. It is definitely here. There is, I think, something boozy in this fragrance as well, although I get very little of that. It's not terribly boozy to me, but it's just this delicious, sweet bread. It's just delicious. It's beautiful. Now, Jour de Peau from Serge Lutens also has that bready vibe, but it is a bit different. There is a note of wheat in here. I think there is coconut. There might be licorice. There is a note of milk in here. Oh, and there is Immortelle. I forgot to mention that about Panettone as well. Both of these fragrances have the note of Immortelle. And it's this note that I think gives them that bready vibe. That's at least how I pick up this note very often. Whenever it is present, it sort of has that baked good bready kind of feel. So both of these fragrances have this note. Now, Jour de Peau smells a little bit different. It is bready, but this bread is not sweet at all. It's like you just baked this fresh loaf of bread. It's, soft on the inside, crispy on the outside, as if it's some kind of baguette maybe. And you're biting into this bread and you're having it with a glass of milk. So there is a bit of lactonic touch in here as well. Now, Al Contrario from Tiziana Terenzi is also a little bit different. This one gives me a feel of like walking into some kind of bakery that doesn't make, cakes or cupcakes, but it's more different types of bread. And that's what it smells like. You're just getting slightly different whiffs of bread all around you. There is a note of cacao in it. And yes, I definitely get that as well. So it is sweet, but not very sweet. It is, let's put it this way, it is sweeter than Eau de Peau, but it is not quite as sweet as Panettone. So that's how the three fragrances smell. All of them are beautiful. Now, the reason I decluttered Alcantara is just because at that time I felt like it was not needed in my collection, you know? I just had other things that smelled similarly, and that's why I decluttered it, not because it was a bad fragrance, because all three are beautiful. But if I had to recommend one, if I had to choose one, I would go with, no surprise here, I would go with Panettone from Milano Fragranze. You know, I've raved about this fragrance quite a lot recently, and yes, I love it. You know, I'm a gourmand lover, so for me, the sweeter, the better. And I feel like this one sort of combines the best of both worlds. You know, on one hand, you have that bready vibe, which I do enjoy in fragrances, but on the other hand, it has quite a bit of sweetness. And so the two combined together just work beautifully. So yeah, Panettone would be my choice. Next, let's take a look at this interesting combination. Here we have one fragrance that is extremely expensive and the other fragrance that is very inexpensive. And yet, I think these two are very, very comparable. The quality of the juice inside is very comparable. It is really top notch in both of these. So on the expensive side, we have Spiritueuse Double Vanille from Guerlain, and on the affordable side, we have Mercedes Club Black. And it is marketed towards men. It is a men's fragrance, but definitely it is not a men's fragrance. It is completely unisex. Both men and women can wear it easily. Now, Spiritueuse Double Vanille, of course, by many is considered, you know, one of the best vanillas out there. And yes, I have to agree. It is a very, very special fragrance. It is this, you know, woody, smoky, boozy vanilla. It's sort of simple in a way. And yet it is not simple. There's something special about this fragrance. It is so sophisticated and so well put together and so well rounded, and just everything in this fragrance works, and it is a little bit special. It is beautiful, but it is very, very expensive, and you know, it's not the easiest to find. I think typically it is sold at Guerlain boutiques, as far as I know, you know. Not everyone has those around, so, you know, it's not the easiest fragrance to find. Mercedes is definitely on the more affordable side. Now, I don't remember the exact notes, but these fragrances actually smell very, very similarly. You know, this one is also this boozy, woody, smoky vanilla. The difference, I would say, is that Mercedes is perhaps a touch sweeter and a little bit less smoky. It has just a little bit of some type of, I would describe it as sparkly quality. But you know, honestly, those differences are quite minute. Overall, these fragrances are very, very similar. Now, Mercedes is actually, I think, a discontinued scent. However, it pops up on discounter sites all the time, so I don't think it's that difficult to find, at least not yet. So, like I said, these smell very, very similarly. Then how do we choose? Which one would I recommend to you? Well, here, you know, I'm recommending both. And I'm doing that because it is based on, you know, how much you're willing to spend for a fragrance. If you're willing to spend, you know, a lot for Spiritueuse Double Vanille, if that's in your price range, then go for it. Get this fragrance. But if you can't, I don't think you're gonna go wrong with Mercedes. You know, it is a really affordable option and it smells so similar to Guerlain. So the choice is yours and it will depend on your price range. If you're able to go higher up in the price, go for Guerlain. If you can't, go for Mercedes. Okay, next, we have three beautiful fragrances. I think they look great together. They look kind of similar. This is La Danza della Lubilu from Nobili 1942, Ambre d'Alexandrie from Boucheron, and Sao Paulo from Carven. The reason I'm putting these fragrances together is because all of them kind of smell like an apple pie with different nuances. So let's talk about those. Now, La Danza, which is what I'm going to call it for short, is this amazingly delicious, freshly baked apple pie with a little bit of cinnamon. It is buttery, it is sweet, it is like a little crumbly. It is just the most delicious thing ever. I mean, those that have watched me for a while know my love affair with this fragrance. I just love it. I can't help it. I love this fragrance. I even have a backup bottle and I never buy backups, you know. It's just my scent, you can say. Now, Ambre d'Alexandrie, as you can tell by the name, is obviously an amber scent. And it does have amber. I actually can't remember some other notes that it has. I think there's tobacco in here. I think there is vanilla, obviously. There is, I don't know what else. Honestly, I'm not looking into notes of these ones, you know. This one does smell like an apple pie as well, although it is not as sweet as La Danza, and it does have sort of stronger spiciness. You know, in La Danza, even though cinnamon is there, it is very, very faint to my nose. Whereas in Ambre d'Alexandrie, the cinnamon, the spiciness from cinnamon, and I don't know if cinnamon is actually a note there, I don't remember, but I do get it, and the spiciness is definitely stronger. So it is spicier and it is less sweet. Now let's go to Sao Paulo. Now this fragrance is also similar. Like I said, it has that apple pie vibe, but here I know for sure that we have both cinnamon and cardamom, and the spiciness is even stronger here, and it is more like cardamom is more pronounced than cinnamon. Actually, I do get a lot more cardamom, which I don't get in the other two fragrances. And there is a boozy note in here. I can't remember, rum, brandy, something like that. And so I do get that boozy element as well. So that's kind of the difference. You know, again, Sao Paulo is this apple pie that has a lot of cardamom, and it's been drizzled with some alcohol like rum or cognac or something like that. Boucheron is also apple pie that's not very sweet, but it does have a lot of spiciness from cinnamon. And you know, La Danza is probably the most gourmand. It's definitely the sweetest. And it has very faint cinnamon, but it's more like buttery, crumbly, really, really sweet. All three fragrances are absolutely beautiful, and it really will depend on your preferences, which one is best for you. But of course, I'm going to tell you my choice based on my taste and my preferences. And this choice will not surprise anyone. Yes, of course, I am choosing La Danza. Like I said, I've had a love affair with this fragrance for years, you know, and it is still going strong. I am a gourmand lover, so, you know, the sweeter the fragrance, the better, the more I like it. And this is the sweetest of the three. And although I do enjoy the other two very much, but if I could only choose one, if I could only recommend one, yeah, hands down, I'm going with La Danza. All right, let's go to our next trio. And you might be surprised by this one. I think this is probably the most unusual comparison. But let me explain why I'm comparing these three fragrances. So here we have Dolce Diablo from Narcotica, Vanilla Love from Jimmy Choo, and Sunshine Woman from Amouage. The reason I am putting these three together is because if you ask me to describe all of them in a couple of words, I would say that all of them smell like apricot jam. That's really what I get out of all three. But of course, it's not that simple. There's definitely more to each one than just apricot jam. So let's look at, well, what are the differences here? So starting with Dolce Diablo. Now, this one has actual note of apricot, like the fruit apricot, and I think there are dried apricots in here as well. There are definitely some boozy notes in here. There might be rum and brandy. I think there are a few different boozy notes. There's chocolate in here. There is vanilla. There might be honey. There are a lot of notes. There are a lot of notes in here. And what I basically get is this really, really sweet apricot jam that's made with, you know, real apricots and dried apricots. They're all mixed in there. Then you're adding some chocolate to this jam, you know, and then you're drizzling everything with lots of rum or brandy. And you get this absolutely intoxicating concoction. It is rich, it is intoxicating, it is delicious, it is scrumptious, it is something very, very special. This fragrance is really out of this world. I love it. It is so, so beautiful. Jimmy Choo Vanilla Love has been an obsession of mine in the last few months. I just can't seem to stop using it. And, you know, this one is strange. On Fragrantica, they list vanilla. On Jimmy Choo's site, they list a couple additional notes. I don't know. To me, this also smells like apricot jam. It's sweet and it has a little bit of sourness added in. It's, you know, it really reminds me of apricot jam that my mom used to make when I was little, you know. I never liked very sweet jam. So she used to put just a little bit of sugar to it, like less than, you know, you would typically put in a jam. And so it was sweet, but it always had a little bit of that sour element. And so this is exactly how Vanilla Love smells to me. It is sweet, but I would say it is not quite as sweet as Dolce Diablo. Third one here is definitely the most different, and that is Sunshine from Amouage. And like I said, I put it in here because when I describe this fragrance, I also say that it smells like apricot jam. And you know, when like I test or wear this fragrance on its own, it seems sweet. But when I compare it to the other two, it doesn't seem sweet at all. So really, you know, everything is sort of relative here. On its own, I definitely get some sweetness in it, but compared to the other two, no, it seems like it's not sweet at all. Now, there are no actual notes of apricot in here. Instead, there is osmanthus, and very often osmanthus actually smells like apricots. That's why I'm getting apricot jam as well. Also, another prominent note in here is white tobacco, which I definitely get. I mean, white tobacco is so much more gentle and so much lighter than the, you know, real tobacco. So it just adds some really nice smokiness to this scent. That's how it smells. So, Sunshine is definitely the least sweet of the three, and it has this smoky element added from tobacco. Vanilla Love is sweet apricot jam with a little bit of sourness, and Dolce Diablo is really sweet, potent, dense apricot jam with chocolate and with a lot of booziness. All three are beautiful. I absolutely love all three. I mean, the choices in this video are really hard, but let's try to narrow it down to one. Which one would I choose? And I am gonna go with Jimmy Choo Vanilla Love. Yeah, there is something, I think for me, honestly, it's the nostalgic factor. Like I said, it really reminds me of the jam that my mom used to make when I was little. And perhaps that's why I'm making this choice. But I just fell in love with this fragrance as soon as I tried it. Didn't expect it Didn't expect it to smell like this. I mean, really, it just took me by such surprise, and I haven't been able to put it down. So if I had to recommend one out of the three, although I enjoy all three, but at the moment, I would go with Vanilla Love from Jimmy Choo. Next, let's talk about coffee scents. Now, I know not everyone wants to smell like coffee, but for me, I really enjoy those types of scents. So here we're gonna compare three. There is Coffee Addict from Theodoros Kalatinis, there is Café Cabanel from Tio Cabanel, and I'm also adding Awake from Acro. I don't have a full bottle of Acro, but I did test it in the past, so I know how it smells. So let's start with Coffee Addict. This is just such a happy fragrance. Honestly, it always lifts my mood when I wear it. And this to me really smells like a caramel macchiato from Starbucks, you know? You have coffee, you added some cream to it, you added some whipped cream, you drizzled some caramel on top, maybe even added some sugar in there, and that's what you get, you know? It's sweet, it's rich, it's bright from coffee, it's just delicious. It's absolutely delicious, and I find it so cheerful and so warming, especially on a cold day. Absolutely love it. Now, I'm gonna skip Café Cabanel and let's talk about Acro Awake. Now, this one is actually quite similar to Coffee Addict, I think, but here's the difference. Awake to me smells like coffee that has some cream in it and has some sugar. So you've definitely added cream, you've definitely added sugar, but it doesn't have the level of sweetness and creaminess and depth maybe that Coffee Addict has. So it's kind of on the lighter side, you know, if you don't want something really, really sweet and rich and deep, probably Awake would be a better choice. But if you prefer something really, you know, kind of gourmand, then probably Coffee Addict is the way to go. So let's come back to Café Cabanel. Now, this is also some kind of drink from Starbucks. And here I would probably compare it to a latte. So again, you have, you know, you have coffee, you have lots of cream added in, you have some spiciness added in. So there is definitely some cinnamon. And there is, I believe, an actual note of butter. And I can totally see it because it has that creamy, rich texture. Like I almost feel like, you know, they added maybe a little bit of butter to this latte. It is sweet, but again, it's not quite as sweet as Coffee Addict. The level of sweetness, I would say, is probably in the middle between Coffee Addict and Awake. So these are the differences. Now, which one to choose? Again, this is not an easy choice, but which one would I recommend if I had to choose one? I think I would go with Coffee Addict. I just love this scent. There is something about it that I just absolutely love. Like I said, it just lifts up my mood. And in addition to that, it is so inexpensive. I mean, for a niche fragrance, it is really the most affordable option out of the three. So yeah, I'm gonna choose Coffee Addict. And here's our last new comparison for today. And what kind of inspired this comparison is the new fragrance in my collection, and that is Diamond in the Sky from HFC. I don't even know if I shared it in a haul yet, but if not, it will be coming up. Now, I've wanted to try this fragrance for a while, and you know, of course, I was researching it. This was a blind buy, and when I read the reviews on Fragrantica, many people compare it to Baccarat Rouge 540. That is why I'm adding BR 540 to this comparison. So we have Diamond in the Sky from HFC, BR 540 from MFK, and of course in the middle we have Lamar from Kajal. So let's start with Diamond in the Sky, which is what inspired this comparison. Now, is it similar to BR 540 as everyone says? By the way, I'm not going to tell you what BR 540 smells like. We've heard about it a million times, so no need to go there. But what does Diamond in the Sky smell like? Is it really similar to BR 540? Now, we all have different noses. To my nose, it is not similar to BR 540. It might have very, very faint, something faint reminding us of that scent, but it's so faint. Overall, when I spray this, I don't automatically think Baccarat Rouge. I really don't. However, what I do get here is something very similar to Lamar from Kajal. That is why this fragrance is here. And I know that I heard from some people that Lamar is actually similar to Baccarat Rouge. It is quite possible. To me, again, they are not similar. Perhaps that's why I don't get the similarity of Diamond in the Sky to Baccarat Rouge either. So, Lamar from Kajal, well, I've spoken about it many times. What does it smell like? Well, this is this fruity, sweet, slightly spicy, slightly gooey concoction with pineapple being the most prominent note. It is sort of slightly lighter in the beginning and it becomes more syrupy in the dry down. It's a beautiful, beautiful scent. Diamond in the Sky gives me vibes of Lamar, with the difference being that there is a very prominent note of caramel. So there is a lot of, it's like if you take Lamar and you add a lot of caramel to it, you get Diamond in the Sky. That's what it smells like to me. So that's why I've chosen these three fragrances to compare, so you kind of understand the differences between them. Now, which one would I choose? Again, not an easy choice, but if I had to recommend one, I would go with Lamar from Kajal. I've just been a fan of this fragrance for a number of years and I still love it, and I just really, really love wearing it, especially in the warm weather. Although I think it is suitable in any weather. It works in cold as well. I've tried it, but I just prefer this scent profile in the warm weather. And I'm really glad that I got Diamond in the Sky, because for me, it has kind of become the winter version of Lamar. You know, even though I got it relatively recently, I've had a chance to wear it quite a few times and I really, really enjoyed it. I think it's because of the addition of that caramel that this scent becomes a little bit more cold weather appropriate, or kind of gravitate towards it during cold weather. And Lamar for me, like I said, is more warm weather type of scent. Both are beautiful, but I'm gonna choose for now, I'm gonna choose Lamar as sort of my recommendation out of this trio. So these are the new comparisons that I wanted to share with you. Now, very quickly, let me update you on a comparison that I had in part 2. Now, in part 2, I talked about Minuit et Demi from Fragrance du Bois and Changing Constance from Penhaligon's. And since then, there was a fragrance released by Navitus Parfums called Raised Spirits. I did a whole video on this fragrance, and in the comments under this video, you know, many people asked me, how does it compare to Minuit et Demi? Or many people commented saying, you know, I really find it very similar to Minuit et Demi. So I wanted to update you. Well, what do I think about this comparison? Again, we all have different noses, and I think my opinion is going to be the unpopular opinion, but I honestly don't get a lot of similarities between these two. I really don't. To me, I mean, they have sort of similar, I don't know, similar profile, but they're going in a similar direction. but they smell quite different in my opinion. If I had to compare, I would compare race spirits to Changing Constants. And I wouldn't say they're terribly similar, but sometimes I get these whiffs from race spirits that sort of remind me of Changing Constants. So yeah, I would say race spirits is a little bit similar to Changing Constants, but I don't see a lot of similarities to Minuit et Demi. Like I said, probably an unpopular opinion, but I'm here to share with you my experiences with fragrances, and that is how I experience these three. So there you go. Here's an update on these three fragrances and some new comparisons. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Definitely share with me in the comments, do you agree with me? Do you disagree? What fragrance twins do you have in your collection? Would love to know your thoughts on this topic. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please remember to comment, subscribe, and like this video, and I will see you soon in the next one.